Good day, everyone, on this Friday, October 9th, 2015. Another really busy week, as usual, at school this week, but I made it through, nonetheless. Long weekend this weekend. It's the Canadian Thanksgiving. A lot of my classmates are going home to their parents this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. There's just so much to do. I've got a lot to do this weekend. There's a lot of assignments to do, and there are tests to study for. Midterm exams are now starting to pop up, and yeah, I really would have loved to have spent the weekend with Mom, but unfortunately, that is not going to happen. I figured I should remain up here so I can do my studies and I can go to school for anything if I need to. Excuse me. And I can meet up with any friends to study should I need to, and stuff like that. So, oh well, I will get some much needed rest and sleep nonetheless. A few things to talk about in this vlog this week. First of all, something that I think is really cool for me. Just yesterday, I voted. The Canadian federal election is, of course, coming up. Election day is October 19th, and yeah, I voted yesterday. They held an advanced poll at school. Actually, I went to school, but there was quite a long lineup, and someone informed us that the school next to us, the community college, was doing the same thing, and they didn't have nearly as many people in line as we did. So I went up there, and indeed, things moved quite a lot faster. I was in and out in about 20 or 25 minutes. But yeah, it was really cool. I'm really happy that I got to do that. This is the first federal election that I'm old enough to vote in, so I exercised my right, and I'm really glad to do so. Part of the reason that I'm really glad that I got to do this is that I think this election, this particular federal election, is really important, way more important than previous elections, just because there's so much at stake, you know, in the present time here in Canada. Our economy's in question. The Canadian dollar has gone to crap. Oil has gone to crap, and unfortunately, our economy now is wrapped around the oil industry. So when the oil industries go down the toilet, our whole economy goes down the toilet, and it's not a good situation for anybody. So I felt it was really important for me to go out and vote. And part of what I'm talking about this in this video now is because I wanted to stress the same thing to my Canadian viewers, especially the guys who might be my age, who might have never voted before. This is really important. I personally think that each and every one of you watching this video that can do so, vote in this election. Read everything you can, become informed, and go out and vote. Make an informed decision. It's really, really important. There's a lot at stake in this particular election, and vote for who you think is best to run this country. And don't let your family, who your family votes for, don't let them pressure you. Don't let your other peers pressure you. Vote for who you think is best to run this country. And I believe the biggest majority of people who don't vote are young people, university and college aged people. So I just wanted to put it out there as a little PSA. Get out there and vote, because it's really important. Whatever government takes the helm of this country in the next couple weeks, it's going to affect the whole country, and that includes you. So become informed and do your part and make your decision. It's something that I thought was really important to get out there. I've done so, and I'm glad I did that, and we'll see how it plays out in a couple of weeks. Next, this week. I've been having really frustrating FireWire problems. One of the computers that I have here has a 4-pin FireWire port. Now, traditionally, when I transfer video from my 8mm camcorders, of course, I do it over FireWire, and whatever machine I've always transferred the video to has a 6-pin FireWire port. So I have a 4-pin to 6-pin cable. The 4-pin plugs in the camcorder, and the 6-pin plugs in the computer, and I do my thing, and it works just fine. But I also have a couple of computers that have 4-pin FireWire ports. They're both laptops, in fact. And I'd really like to use one of them to become my video transfer computer, just because the computer I'm using right now to transfer video, it works, but it could be done much quicker and easier with another computer. So I went on eBay and I bought a 4-pin to 4-pin FireWire cable, so I could hopefully use my camcorders with this other computer. Well, unfortunately, this computer's running Windows 7. I plug my camcorder in to the FireWire, and my video capture software which I use, nor Windows as a whole, they do not detect the camcorder at all. The camcorder just doesn't exist. Nothing happens at all when I plug it in, and that's really frustrating. I talked to someone who's knowledgeable in this matter on YouTube, and because I thought, well, maybe computers with 4-pin FireWire ports, maybe 4-pin FireWire ports don't support camcorders, but I spoke to this person and they said, yeah, they do, and they've done it, and it's supposed to work just fine. But yeah, I can't get this computer to recognize my camcorders at all, and the reason it's so frustrating is because several years ago, we had a DVD recorder, Mom and I, which had a 4-pin FireWire port, and several years ago I tried hooking up my old mini DV camcorder to it, and I had a 4-pin to 4-pin cable, and that didn't work either. The DVD recorder didn't detect the camcorder's presence at all. I chalked it up to a bad cable and threw it away, and now I'm wondering if something else is at play here, because now several years later I'm in the exact same situation, except now it's a computer instead of a DVD recorder, and I paid $2.50, a whole $2.50 for this FireWire cable, and I suppose it's possible that the cable isn't working, but it's a brand new cable, and my 4 to 6-pin cable, which I've been using for years, that was a $2 eBay buy, and that's working just fine a few years later. And yeah, I don't know what's going on. Perhaps there's something wrong with the computer. I don't know. I suppose whenever I get home, I'll try the same thing with my other computer that has a 4-pin port. If that doesn't work, I'll try another cable. If that doesn't work, then I guess I'll give up. But yeah, wish I could get that working. I don't know why I've had such bad luck with using my camcorders on devices which have 4-pin ports. It's frustrating. What's next? I think I might have accidentally lied about the HP LaserJet 4M series. I said there was going to be one more video in the series. I don't think that'll be the case anymore, because what was supposed to be the last part was going to be an actual printing demonstration, and in its unedited form, it's about an hour long. And I've gotten to editing it, and I'm about 15 minutes through, and I'm thinking now of splitting that part into two separate parts, because for the first 15 minutes of that video stream, I just print the built-in demo pages and test pages, and then later, after that, I actually hook it up to a computer and start printing stuff from the computer. So I'm thinking now I'm going to upload a part that's just printing the test pages, because that's 15 minutes worth right there, and then the rest of it, where I demonstrate it actually connected to a computer, will be a part after that, and that'll hopefully be the last part. So I think I'll do that. Finally, for this vlog tonight, the YouTube user Manly Evangelista, he posted a very interesting article which I read. It was a really good read, quite a long article, and I found it very interesting. And it concerns a device which pretty much all of us between the ages of, gosh, 15 and 30, 35, that we're all familiar with, and that's the Texas Instruments TI-83 graphing calculator. The article concerns the fact that 20 years after its introduction, the TI-83 is still the most common graphing calculator seen in public schools. It's very interesting, and it went into some hypotheses about why that is. Part of it was the fact that Texas Instruments has a monopoly in the graphing calculator market. They've always been the most popular maker of graphing calculators, which is interesting considering they weren't the first. Casio was. And another part of it is that because TI's graphing calculators are the most popular, they're the most standardized ones. They're the ones that are most recognized on standard tests, you know, SATs and the like. And it was really interesting, but at the same time there were some points of the article that I didn't disagree with. Therefore I disagree. I did disagree with them. Holy cow. Part of it was the whole standardized test thing. Well, I looked at the website of the company College Board, which administers many of these standardized tests, and I looked at their lists of approved calculators, and there's tons of calculators, many of them not made by Texas Instruments, that are approved on these standardized tests. Even my ratty old Casio CFX 9850G with its color LCD display, even that's on the on this list. So it wouldn't really be standardized testing as being the reason that that the TI-83 still rules, because it's not the only calculator on that list. TI is not even the only manufacturer on that list, so that's not the reason. Something about the article where it didn't explicitly say this, but it certainly was implied. Of course, the TI-83 was introduced in 1996. It's not being made anymore, but it was replaced with the very, very similar TI-83 Plus in 1999, and the TI-83 Plus is what's still being made today, but the article just lumped them into one unit. Fair enough. And the article sort of implied that it was horrible that the TI-83/83 Plus was still the standard in schools just because it's so old. Well, I don't agree with that. I mean, graphing calculators, at least, you know, your mainstream ones, haven't changed that much in 20 years. Of course, your high-end ones now, like the TI Inspire and the Casio FX10 or whatever it's called, that's similar to the Inspire, and the Hewlett-Packard Prime. Of course, they're very fancy and futuristic calculators that are way different from your usual ones. But as far as usual ones are concerned, they haven't changed a lot in 20 years. So with the fact that a 20-year-old graphing calculator is still used in public schools today, I don't think that's a very awful thing. If it works, then what's the issue? You know, a graphing calculator is a graphing calculator. There's really nothing wrong with it. The way I see it, if these calculators are so reliable, which they very much are, that they're still working 20 years later, then great, that's a lot of money saved. There's nothing wrong with that. What I do think is kind of ridiculous, though, is that upon its introduction in 1999, the TI-83 Plus had a retail price of $100. 16 years later, it's still $100. That's ridiculous, because even though it's still a very useful calculator, it is extremely old now, and you can now buy graphing calculators from Casio or Sharp, even just cheap graphing calculators that have way more functionality. So the TI-83 is indeed a very basic calculator now, but not only does it still cost as much as it did 16 years ago, which is ridiculous, but it costs twice as much as these other calculators, which do as much, if not more. I think that's very ridiculous. And the article said that Texas Instruments, it costs them about $15 or $20 to build their graphing calculators. So a $100 retail price for a 16-year-old calculator that can't do as much as another calculator that costs $50. It's ridiculous, and I know why it still costs that much, because they can sell it for that much. It's the most popular graphing calculator in the world. You know, people eat them up, not because they think it's the best choice, but because they're afraid of being left behind if they get another calculator. So TI uses that to their advantage and sells a calculator worth maybe $30 or $40 for more than twice as much of that. Oh well. Something Manly mentioned though, which I didn't think of, but I certainly agree with, is that certainly perhaps the reason the TI-83 Plus is still the most popular graphing calculator in the world is because once they establish the user base, it's very easy to find support and help with using them. If you're in grade school and you have a TI-83 Plus and you're trying to figure out how to use some feature and you can't figure out how, your teacher can probably tell you, because they've also used a TI-83/83 Plus. But if I was in high school with my Casio CFX9850G and I was trying to do regression or whatever on it and I couldn't figure out how, and I asked my teacher, I know for a fact my math teacher wouldn't have known. My math teacher had only ever used TI graphing calculators, and certainly that's going to be the case with the great majority of them. So that's certainly a reason why the TI-83 still reigns king. But and there's nothing wrong with it reigning king. It is indeed a great calculator. It's a very powerful calculator. You can do a lot more. Even though you can get calculators now with more, you know, basic features, there's a lot more power user features that you get on a TI, for example, to program them in assembly language. And I actually want to get a TI-83 or 83 Plus now, because now that I'm learning assembly language and I know the concepts behind programming assembly language, I'd really like to get one just so I can have something cool to program assembly language with. The wonderful thing, of course, about the TI-83 is that it uses a Zilog Z80 microprocessor that is a Intel 8080 clone. So that's awesome. You know, 8080 assembly language you can program right on a nice portable AAA battery powered graphing calculator. That's pretty neat. I think the Z80's I forget if the Z80 is fully compatible with the 8080. I don't think it is. I think there's a few instructions that are different, but it's mostly very similar. So yeah, it was a very interesting article, and I'm glad Manly posted it. It was a very good read. I will link it in the description for all you guys to read if you so desire. Yeah, I think that's all I have for this vlog this week, you guys. I will be working on school stuff over the weekend, but I will try to get some video edited and uploaded as well, at least one video. So until then, have a great weekend and get out there and vote. And I will see you guys later.